I call this meeting of the Northeast Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. The time is 5:31. Item 2, open session A, level or parent-student grievance. This grievance will be heard in open session at the request of the grievance parent. This is a stop, look, and listen presentation. The board will listen impartially to a presentation by the grievant. Only those documents considered at prior levels will be considered by the board in this hearing, with a focus on whether this grievance has been timely filed in accordance with board policy FNG local. The grievance parents will have 10 minutes to address the board. District administration will then have 10 minutes to address the board. Board members only will have the opportunity to ask questions of the grievance parents and of staff members. Following questions by the board, the grievance parents will have 2 minutes to make a closing statement. The administration will have the same. Since this grievance is being held in open session, we ask that no students' names be used during the presentation, and we also ask that any reference to employees refer to the person's title rather than his or her name. As this is a grievance proceeding, all those present shall conduct themselves in a professional manner, and no disruptions by anyone in attendance will be tolerated. Dr. Micah, I turn the meeting over to you for the opening introduction.
Thank you, Madam President. Mrs. Groen and members of the board, we are here tonight to hear a parent-student grievance filed by the parents of a student, A.H. The administration will be represented by Mr. Rudy Jimenez, our Assistant Superintendent for Campus Administration. Will the staff members that are in the room that are here to respond to questions from the board regarding this matter, please state your name and position.
Eric Ornley, principal at Madison High School, former principal at Lopez.
Thank you, Madam President. That's all.
Okay. Mr. and Mrs. H., you may begin when you are ready. We can give you a 2-minute warning if you wish.
I would like a 2-minute warning when that time is appropriate. Does my time start as soon as I...
Yes.
All right, here we go. As you know, my complaint involves the middle school sexuality curriculum, Draw the Line, Respect the Line, published by ETR, which was founded as an offshoot of Planned Parenthood of Santa Cruz, California. I filed my grievance on December 5th, 2019, which was the same day I learned of these issues from watching a recorded talk and seeing materials which inspired my threefold complaint. Since that time, my complaints have not been addressed. Your F&G policy has been interpreted by the district in such a way as to allow the complaint to be completely sidestepped. I'm not even sure if levels 2 and 3 saw all the material I submitted. I was denied 2 in-person hearings. All complaints were dismissed at their levels on a straw man. For some reason, at level 3, remedies were discussed, still not complaints. Common sense says a complaint process, complaints are considered. Common sense says in a complaint process, remedies don't even enter into discussion unless and until the problem is acknowledged by the other side. These are reasonable expectations of a parent who have to file a grievance. School systems are public institutions. Their employees serve the public. By law, educators, administrators, and the board are to be full partners with parents, full partners. We expect the district to be interested in doing what is right by the parents and community members. We expect that legitimate and evidence-based concerns brought forward would cause someone to look into the legal and ethical issues brought up. I expected for my grievance to go immediately to the lowest level with the authority to address all the issues, which would have been you, the board. A lot has happened in 9 months. The amount of evidence I have for my complaint has increased substantially. Some bombshells, I might add. But your policy says I'm not permitted to bring forward new evidence. I find that to conflict with another part of your policy, which says this process is not to be treated as a mini-trial with evidentiary rules. This format is not ideal. I would much rather have been invited to sit down with a party who had done a thorough review of my complaints and evidence. Over 13 employees have known about and had access to my grievance. I want to remind you that you are the public safety net, and your policy allows you to investigate and render your decision at the next regular meeting. You represent us. Thank you all for coming, by the way. As you carry out your fiduciary responsibilities of guiding and overseeing the district, not the other way around. I will make myself available anytime between now and then to go over and share the information that I've learned so that you can investigate and get to the bottom of this issue. Let me state what should be very clear. My complaint is not about getting abstinence-only education. It's about the need for the district curriculum to be in full compliance with the law. To date, the district has not addressed that. It's about the need for all lessons covering sexual topics to be described accurately for parents, both in writing and in parent previews. If girls are not helped and are possibly harmed, as suggested by the data withheld from the board, how could the board allow the district to keep that from parents on a basic human or ethical level? This complaint is for each trustee to consider whether it really makes sense that the shack is closed off to the communities whose values it's supposed to reflect. It needs transparency. The people you represent need to be able to trust and verify that the advice being given to the board is actually reflective of our values, as the law says. Currently, what happens in the shack stays in the shack, non-disclosure agreements and all. I know the excuse being used by proponents of this curriculum to keep the shack closed. Despite their feelings or desires, objectively, there is no good reason for the shack of a taxpayer-funded public institution to be closed and operating in secret. The volunteers in the shack don't deserve to have secrecy associated with their work. Shine a light on it. Do you think your constituents would want more transparency or less? I think we all agree that trustees should choose what is best for the children. Today, I want you to remember what you've been told all this time about the curriculum and be ready to question it all in light of the new facts. Today, I ask you to listen carefully to word choice. I will do my best to speak in a straightforward way because it's not a mini trial, as board policy says. Also straightforward is the law and the curriculum. It does not take an advanced degree or particular professional experience to compare the curriculum to the Ed Code 28004 and see that it doesn't fully comply. The district 3 times has incorrectly asserted that my trigger date for a grievance goes way back to May 9, 2016, the date at which the board adopted the curriculum we were discussing. It's a strange choice because the board cannot uphold it. To uphold this date, the board would have to likewise admit that the trustees who voted for that curriculum likewise knew or should have known that the curriculum violated the Ed Code. I suspect at least 2 current trustees would say that is outrageous. Turning to the level 3 response, which, like level 4, mentions the suggested remedies, not my complaints. In the letter, Assistant Superintendent of Campus Administration, my apologies, stated that he had no reason to believe the board, at the time of the curriculum's adoption, May 2016, quote, did not do a thorough review of the curriculum, end quote. The board's May 2016 meeting, which was referred to, actually does give reasons to question the thorough review, such as trustees asking questions that show lack of familiarity with the actual curriculum. If you need more, please ask me. I requested a reasonable amount of time to present based on the volume of my evidence, but was denied more than 10 minutes. The letter also was level 3 letter that was signed says this, and pay attention to the wording. The Board of Trustees retains the exclusive authority to adopt any human sexuality curriculum the district offers. Any. That's not the law. Texas Education Code 28004H gives conditional authority, not blanket authority that would be meant by the word any. It specifies that the sex ed curriculum a board adopts must be in accordance with subsections E, F, and G. That clause in accordance with conditions or limits the authority of the board. So while the choice whether to teach sex ed at all and the subsequent choice of the curriculum is absolutely at the local level, the board's choice must remain within the law. Therefore, you cannot uphold the level 3 opinion that the board can, quote, adopt any curriculum district offer. It's against the law. Texas Ed Code 28004E lists a set of requirements, all of which must be complied with. To be out of compliance with the law, just one of these requirements has to be violated. Ed Code 28004E2 says curriculum must devote more attention to abstinence from sexual activity than any other behavior. This is an objective measure, easily measured by legitimate analysis of the curriculum. The curriculum does not meet this requirement of the Ed Code. Ask me for proof on E2. Now let's look at paragraph E5. It says the curriculum must teach contraception and condom use in terms of human use reality rates instead of theoretical laboratory rates, if instruction on contraception and condoms is included in curriculum content. This means that lab rates can't be taught. Makes sense because that would confuse and endanger a minor child. As you know, my documentation lists about a dozen other examples where the requirements of the law appear to be violated. And remember, you just have to have one requirement of subsection E that is violated, and you're violating 2 parts of the Ed Code. If even one of my examples is accurate, what should you do? On to parent previews. They may be one reason you don't receive more complaints. Parents don't know what is actually in the curriculum until they are told from someone not affiliated with the school system. They just assume it's all described as expected. It says abstinence a lot in the descriptions. Probably this is what the full Shack and board heard as well in 2016. But the first time abstinence is even defined is in the teacher manual, the second to the last lesson out of 19 lessons. It's never listed or defined in the student books at all. Not a difficult word or concept, right? This word is used over and over in descriptions which persuade parents to send kids. And after the sentence mentioning it, there are 8 paragraphs over 2 pages of detailed descriptions of birth control. Abstinence center? Some parents know.
You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Some parents know that Texas requires abstinence emphasis in the student parent handbook, which says all laws are complied with. Still others read your EHAA policy and see that abstinence and the benefits of abstinence are required to be stressed in each unit taught. If the district is proud of its opt-in rates, it's really only substantiate my claim that previews are misleading. What else might the district say today? They may say that the TE has not found this curriculum violate the law. Listen to carefully how that's worded. They cannot say the TE actually investigated. Ask me to see my evidence proving the TA did not weigh in on the curriculum's compliance at all. I ask you these questions. 1, what if even a fraction of what is in my complaint submission is true? Do you intend to investigate? Are you curious about the strategy to treat my complaint a certain way, since you cannot uphold untimeliness without implicating a previous board, including 2 current trustees sitting here? Do you believe parents don't have a right to know that the approved curriculum does not help girls, or condom use, or sex partners, and encourages children to draw the line at wherever they feel ready for it? I gave you hard evidence that our district's name is being used to train other districts to get a certain type of sex ed into schools, regardless of substantial parent community opposition. I have new evidence too. Is each trustee 100% sure there are no educator violated his or her code of ethics or board policy despite no investigation being done? I'm a constituent of District 6. I'm a dad. My voice matters. Today, my voice is for the children and parents of the district, for children's health and safety, for parents' rights. We need you to make the best decision for all of us. And to do that, you need the complete story. You need to know what I know and much more. There's a lot here. Over there is a multi-year history of promoting and defending an optional curriculum that came free to the district. Thank you. Let's shine a light on this issue.
Thank you. The administration will now have 10 minutes to present. You can begin when you'd like. Do you want a 2-minute warning?
Sure.
Okay.
President Grona, members of the board, Dr. Micah, executive staff, and guests, good evening. Tonight you heard some information pertaining to Mr. H's grievance on behalf of his daughter. Mr. H's complaints and subsequent remedies in level 1 consisted of the following. The complaint was the draw the line, respect the line curriculum violated Texas Education Code 28.004, and the remedy was to halt, draw the line, respect the line immediately, and reinstate the previous in interim. Second complaint was the online preview and NEIC parent notifications are insufficient, incomplete, and potentially misleading. Parental rights are violated because we are not advised of the graphic, sexually explicit nature of this curriculum. And the remedy was to require SHAC, the School Health Advisory Council, meetings to be open and members to speak to the public they are supposed to be representing. The third complaint was that the board rubber-stamped SHAC's recommendation of this curriculum without being advised that it violated Texas Education Code and contained offensive content that doesn't reflect community values. And the remedy was to require board to review entire curriculum before replacing it with anything new to NEISD. As Mr. H pointed out, the Draw the Line, Respect the Line curriculum was approved on May 9th, 2016 by the NEISD Board of Trustees to be adopted for the 2016-2017 school year. Mr. H's complaint was ruled untimely in the Level 1 decision by then principal at Lopez Middle School. In the subsequent levels, Level 2 with the Executive Director for Campus Administration and Level 3 with me, the Level 1 decision was upheld. NEISD Board Policy F&G Local, which provides governance on NEISD process of student parent grievances, states that the complainant should request a Level 1 conference with the principal within 10 days of the time the student or parent know or should have known of the event or series of events causing the complaint. F&G Local, under the title Untimely Filings, states that if a complaint form or appeal notice is not timely filed, the complaint may be dismissed on written notice to the student or parent at any point during the complaint process. Ultimately, Mr. H's remedy of halting, draw the line, respect the line, and requiring the board to review the entire curriculum as categorized as untimely due to the dates these were reviewed and approved. Texas Education Code Section 28.004 gives the Board of Trustees the authority to adopt the human sexuality curriculum the district will offer. All board meetings are duly publicized in accordance to Chapter 551.043 of the Texas Government Code, which states that the notice of the meeting, a governmental body must be posted in a place readily accessible to the general public at all times for at least 72 hours before the scheduled time of the meeting. Furthermore, every year there is language in the Student Parent Handbook that mentions the district's human sexuality and abstinence education. In this handbook, human sexuality and abstinence education has its own line item in the index. Additionally, the PE and Health Department posts information on their website for our parents under human sexuality and abstinence education. Within the body of the webpage, there are 2 reminders for the reader to email the Director for Physical Education and Health if there are any questions. The Northeast Independent School District goes beyond the requirements set forth by Texas Education Code Section 28.004 by requiring parents to opt their child in to receive the instruction. The default option for any ISD is that each parent's child will not receive the curriculum unless they choose to. Moreover, school communication includes a face-to-face parent information session at each middle school, an online version of the parent preview. If requested, parents are allowed to schedule a time to review the curriculum at their pace. Parents can choose which lessons they want their children to participate in. There are no penalties or repercussions for non-participation, and alternative assignments are provided. Again, parents must opt in for students to receive the curriculum. Mr. H's daughter was a Northeast student in the 2018-2019 school year. As stated earlier, parents had the opportunity for a face-to-face information session and access to an online version of the parent preview. These were available to all parents in her grade level, and thus there were additional opportunities to access the curriculum. In the process of investigating, I contacted Lopez Middle School and found that during the 2018-2019 school year, specifically in the spring semester, Mr. H's daughter was not opted in to receive the curriculum. Unfortunately, due to an error by the school's coach, Mr. H's daughter was placed in the curriculum on day 1. Mrs. H contacted the coach the following day and asked that her daughter be removed for the remainder of the sessions. And this was a mistake by the school for that first day. But this scenario also demonstrates another example of Mr. and Mrs. H's knowledge regarding the curriculum well before the December 5th, 2019 Level 1 grievance. While the issue of untimeliness is what I'm focusing on, I'd like to address the following. Mr. H's fundamental disagreement with the curriculum gives him the right not to accept it. However, it should not preclude others who want their children to access the instruction. In fact, in the first year of the implementation of Draw the Line, Respect the Line, in the fall of 2016, 80% of NEISD parents gave permission to have their children receive the curriculum. In the spring of 2017, 88% of parents opted in. An item to note is that the failure of parents to turn in the opt-in form are also included in the no's. Mr. H's contention that the SHAC meetings should be open to members of the public is directly tied to the process that took place before Draw the Line, Respect the Line was approved in May of 2016. As a result, this remedy was also denied due to untimeliness. Ladies and gentlemen, this grievance and the relief sought are not new issues. They've been brought up in the past. TEA closed a complaint regarding Draw the Line, Respect the Line curriculum and determined the Northeast Independent School District addressed the concerns in a correspondence dated June 2018. It said the Northeast Independent School District has addressed the reported concerns that are within the scope of the Texas Education Agency. TA did not conclude that the curriculum violated the law, and TA did not require the district to stop using the curriculum. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Do I have any board members that have a question? Okay. Mr. H., you will now have 2 minutes to make your statement.
Certainly. Okay, interesting. So I sat here and listened. And remember I said word choices matter? Words have meaning, choices matter. One, the law was never really even discussed here, so I wasn't completely surprised. Remember, the law says you must emphasize, you must devote more attention, you must comply with. What does the law actually say, and what is actually in the curriculum itself? Not just the opinion of someone with a vested self-interest within the district. Remember who your client is. Individuals like me, parents and community members of NESD who elected you to be the independent oversight and guidance of the district and staff. As was stated in this boardroom back on February 19th, When the district is wrong, we admit we are wrong, we work on that. The district is wrong on this one. Before you make a decision, I encourage you to go back and actually put the law next to the books, the curriculum, and do your own independent analysis. Don't rely on the staff, don't rely on me. See if it actually complies with all 5 components of Part E. I would really encourage that. Just please read the words carefully, because they have specific meanings and definitions. As you know, you don't have to make a decision day. Ask that you investigate. Transparency is paramount in the trust of public education. And on the TEA response, it was a closure. They never did an actual investigation. And please ask me, which now we passed a chance to ask, but there was no actual investigation. I have a copy of the TEA letter. It's a closure letter, but it was related to, but not addressing my actual concern about compliance with the law. It was a different complaint, different conversation. If there's any doubt, and there should be plenty, you need to err on the side of caution and rule in my favor. Stop teaching draw the line, respect the line, the optional prediction to begin with, which will solve the parent preview problems as well as the shack opening. Also remember, what happened this spring with draw the line, respect the line? It was too sensitive to be taught, I think, is what something, but I'm not sure. Be interesting to get more information on all of that. Thank you. Appreciate the time in front of the board today.
Mr. Jimenez, you now have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Ultimately, this case is about timeliness. Opportunities to learn about the curriculum were abundant and provided to the public via a variety of ways. On May 9, 2016, this determination for the draw the line, respect the line was finalized. Board of Trustees took into account the recommendation of the School Health Advisory Council, or SHAC, and the current curriculum meets the requirements of the Texas Education Code, and the Texas Education Agency did close that complaint regarding the curriculum and concluded that the curriculum did not violate the law, nor did it require the district to halt using the curriculum. Thank you.
I'm sorry, your time was up.
This is open grievance. You're in control as the board president. Please add 1 sentence that I forgot to add. I think is very important.
I'm sorry, but your time is up.
I still had 6 seconds left. Can I get my 6 seconds back? I have the time right here. Hey, please.
The board will now adjourn into executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071. The time of adjournment is 5:53. The board will now reconvene into open session. The time is 6:17. The trustees welcome comments from members of the public during this time of the meeting. Generally, board members do not respond to public comments during the meeting, although members may request further information or a future agenda item on a matter raised during public comment. As explained fully in the board's written procedures for this time, the matters from the floor portion is a limited public forum. Accordingly, speakers may present on a topic related to, well, we're not really doing matters from the floor. They're speaking to a specific agenda item. So I don't need to read all that, do I? Okay. So now we will, Ms. Huey will call the people who have signed up to speak.
3 minutes.
Yeah, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak.
And name and address.
Please provide your name and address when you get to the microphone.
Cimarron Gilson.
Good evening, Board President. How much time do I have?
3 minutes.
It's my understanding that Mr. H.
I need name and address.
Oh, yes, Cimarron Gilson, 2635 Spring Canyon, San Antonio, 78232.
Thanks.
It's my understanding that Mr. H. filed his grievance the very same day that he learned about the illegality of this curriculum. It's impossible and unreasonable for this board to hold him to know or should have known of the illegality dating all the way back to the board's decision in May of 2016. He wasn't here. He did not have a child in middle school at that time. He was away on duty. So if the question is, did he know or should have known of the illegality of a curriculum and filed that within 10 days of knowing that, he absolutely did that on the very first day of discovering the illegality. The other thing is, how do you know when something is illegal? You don't know that until you research it. So I understand Mr. H. learned of the curriculum, researched it, and filed within the same day. So in my opinion, he filed timely. Aside from his timeliness or non-timeliness, y'all's duty, the board's duty, is enduring and continuing and has no deadline or timeline. Your duty to make sure that curriculum abides and is in compliance with the law is continuous. Your duty to look out for the safety and well-being of every student, especially those who opt in to the sex ed curriculum, is enduring. You've learned and been presented with enough evidence to show that this curriculum does not follow does not comply with 28.004E 1 through 5 of the Texas Education Code. All of those 5 requirements stress the importance of a curriculum promoting abstinence as the preferred 100%, the only 100% reliable way, and each one of those as a way of prevention of pregnancy and sexual diseases. It is also well documented that this ETR publishing house was created by Planned Parenthood of Santa Cruz in the 1980s. And that relationship between ETR and Planned Parenthood, as well as other chapters in the country, has also been continuous since the 1980s. Why would this board entrust its sex ed curriculum to an organization like Planned Parenthood, whose chief objective is to prevent pregnancy and STD, not by the promotion of abstinence, but by the promotion of artificial contraception and abortion? Why would we leave that responsibility to that type of organization when our law requires abstinence to be the most preferred? It doesn't make sense to me. I think Mr. H has brought that up, and I challenge you and request you to investigate.
Your time is up, sir.
Thank you.
And please forgive me if I mispronounce this, Birdie Chaudroir. Maybe Bridie?
Here she is.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Bridie Chaudroir. I'm a resident of Northeast.
Please state your address for the record.
Excuse me?
Please state your address for the record.
8602 Charo Lane.
Thank you.
It's also on the
Thank you.
sign-up sheet. I have 4 young children. My oldest is 7, and then I have a 7, 5, 4, and 2. I'm always trying to keep ahead of what's next, and I've become familiar with the sex education program in Northeast. And as a parent, I've educated myself, and it is not our family's values. It's graphic and obscene for 11, 12-year-olds. It's honestly a factor whether we would take our children and put them into a charter school where that content is not taught. And I ask the question why the sex education was not part of the virtual learning in the spring. If it's good enough to teach the children in the classroom, why weren't the parents allowed to know what that content is in virtual learning? So I thank you for your time, and I hope that you will consider that this sex education program does not represent the values for my family. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry, I cannot read the last name, but the first name is Patty, maybe Riley.
Thank you. Patty King, K-I-N-G.
Oh, okay.
18014 Bishop's Pond, 78257. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for serving on this board. It's important to our communities, our children, our schools. I'd like to ask a question of each of you, the same question. How many of you have read this sex education? Would you answer or raise your hand if you've read it?
This is not a interactive. This is
Well, you
your
can
presentation.
respond if you want. It doesn't have to not be interactive, but if you've read it, would you raise your hand? Because I've been in presentations, I've read part of it, and it is obscene. It is putting ideas in young people's head they don't need to have. We fight that on television and movies and in online? Why do we have it in our schools? I can turn it off at home. I can remove it. I can remove channels. I can not let them have internet access to certain things. But to put this in our young people's mind is atrocious. And please, if you haven't read this curriculum, please read it. It's important to our children and our communities. Thank you so much.
Jacqueline Heineman.
Hello, you guys hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Jackie Hyman. I'm here as a concerned parent.
Please state your address for the record.
Yes, 1247 Ashbury Bay.
Thank you.
And I've had a chance for the past year to review the curriculum for the sex ed program. I reviewed it in detail from the student's perspective and from the teacher's perspective of how they teach it. And I can tell you that I was extremely disturbed by the content. A lot of the information made me sweat and made me uncomfortable. I do agree that sex ed needs to be covered, but one of the things that concerns me the most is just the level of the content and what is described in it, and how abstinence is not even an option in any of the materials, any of the items that are shown to to the students or for the teacher to use. I know that it was mentioned for the one I reviewed in a question or two. There was a few spots here and there, nothing as a major point in the actual material. And that is concerning for me because, we do training for not smoking and not drinking and all those things to say, like, here's what could happen if you do it. And instead for sex ed, and we say don't do it, instead for sex ed, we're saying here's all the great ways you can do it. I don't want to say some of the graphic detail because it's just embarrassing to say, but some of the stuff that I reviewed, I would never teach my children how to have, I just won't say it, but how to have proper sex in different ways that are not normal. And so, anyways, I really would strongly suggest that the board reviews the content. And I will share that there are a good number of us moms who are considering pulling our children out. I have young children who are in elementary school right now. And at this point, if the content stays where it is, we will be going to a charter school that has the proper sex ed, that teaches biology and teaches, if you do have sex, here's what the outcomes could be. And so I don't mean that any way as a threat. It's just what our family would choose to do. And I hope that we can start educating the parents in the community of what exactly is in this content, because I truly believe if most parents knew really what was in there, there would be major concern. I think most parents sort of just sign off on it and say, okay, well, the school's going to teach this, it's going to be okay. I trust what they're doing, I trust that they've reviewed this content. But I think if they really took the time to see some of the graphic images and some of the content that's being described to our student, and in addition, I know that it was pulled for online learning, which is extremely disturbing. And I guess my biggest question would be, if it was disturbing enough to show an online, or to be pulled for online programming, why is it not disturbing enough to show in the classroom without parents' knowledge or parents' involvement? And so that would be my biggest question, is why would we pull it? And if you guys wouldn't.
Your time is up.
It in more detail. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And that's all.
Okay, thank you. Item 4A, possible action regarding level 4 parent-student grievance. Do I have a motion regarding the grievance?
Madam President, I move to dismiss the parent grievance on the grounds it is untimely filed as determined by the prior administrative levels.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second, please.
Thank you, Ms. Winkley. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. The grievance hearing is now concluded. Next item, 5, executive session. The board will now adjourn into executive session pursuant to the following sections of the Texas Open Meetings Act. Texas Government Code, Section 551.071, private consultation with the board's attorney, 551.072, discussing purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property, 551.074 to discuss personnel or to hear complaints against personnel, and the time is 6:29. The board will now reconvene into open session. The time is 7:39. Item 7, matters from executive session. A, personnel including but not limited to administrative appointments pursuant to Government Code Section 551.074. 1, possible action regarding routine personnel including but not limited to administrative appointments. Do I have a motion to approve as discussed in executive session?
So moved. Oops, I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Hasso. Do I have a second?
Second?
Thank you, Mrs. Winkley. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Item B, possible action regarding purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property pursuant to Government Code Section 551.072, no action. C, possible action regarding consultation with board's attorney pursuant to Government Code Section 551.071. 1, pending and/or possible litigation, no action. Item 8, board business. A, possible action regarding 2020 TASA-TASB delegate and alternate. All right, so last year, Ms. Winkley was the delegate, and Mr. Byer was the alternate.
I did a fantastic job, too.
You did.
Let me tell you.
You win alternate
Exemplary.
of the year.
You know, I didn't know that, I didn't know if I was going to make it, but it was nice to know that you were
I
there
was there.
to step in should something
That's right.
happen.
Yes.
Thank you.
So I would like to know who would like to be our delegate for October 2nd at TASA-TASB, and who would like to be our alternate. And don't everybody jump in at one time.
Actually, that's a Saturday, right?
It is a Saturday.
It was wonderful. It was not a bad experience. It was long,
Right.
as y'all were waiting for me in the car. Texting me every 5 minutes. But
So we were ready to go.
It was a great experience, being able to see, you know, from the beginning to the end and the discussion and you know.
It should be
learning
very
process.
interesting this year, too, since it's virtual. I mean, they're making, it'll be similar.
Yeah.
I do know that there's going to be probably at least one of the races, Rolinda, we're pretty certain that her opponent will file from the floor. So there will be one contested race we're worried about.
Wow.
At least one, so.
Would you like to be the delegate?
I would.
Because you were raising your hand? Okay, so Terry Williams.
All right. Thank you, Terry.
Thank you, Terry Williams. I'm filling this out right now. Well, I'll have to get that in a minute. And then who would like to be our alternate?
Oh, Omar raised his hand, I saw.
Yeah, I saw Omar's hand.
Good job, Omar.
I was actually, for the record, was gonna volunteer, but since you told me, you know. I'm just kidding.
Dr. Micah, could you set up the 3-day workshop for the assistant to pass on the information I had from the
Yes, sir.
delegate? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
I have that on the record.
Okay,
On the
so, I guess, do I have a motion to approve Terry Williams as our delegate and Omar as our alternate?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Byer. Do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Mr. Laos. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Item 9, adjournment, and the time is 7:43. Thank you, guys.